Okay, so if you look at this question, the examiner needs you to reconcile the transactions in dataset 1 with the bank statement 1 worksheet. And then below it, you are required to provide all the details of the transactions that do not reconcile or do not match. So one, it might be in terms of details. Maybe the transaction number is the same, but the amounts are different. So that can also be one of the cases or where the two worksheets are not reconciling. So we want to see one based on the value, two based on a information or a transaction that is totally not available in one or two, in one of the two lists. There are those that are applicable or are available in both, but there are those that are only found in one worksheet. So before even we start doing that question, based on what we have been learning, which method or which function are we going to apply? Basing your argument on the nature of the information that we have here, as you can see, this is what we have, and then the bank statement is what is provided here. Okay, so we have the dates, reference number or transaction ID, description, the amounts, and then in the data set 1, we have a similar thing, but there are also other information that have been added here. Okay, somebody is telling us that we are supposed to use VLOOKUP. Okay. Any other function? Any other function that you can think of? Any other function that you can think of? So for you to tackle that question, you must have learned this. For you to tackle that question, you must be well conversant with VLOOKUP. You must be well conversant with VLOOKUP. You must know something about combination of index and match. You must be conversant with that. Or you can use the latest introduction or latest function which was introduced, that is XLOOKUP. XLOOKUP will also help you to solve that. So it is upon you to decide on the function that will serve you best. If you go to XLOOKUP, we'll reduce a lot of things because it is the latest introduction which eliminates all the long procedures covered when you are working with VLOOKUP and even index and match. And when I mention index and match, you cannot work it out using index alone. Remember, index identifies the specific item, while match now tells us the position of that item. So we have to combine both index and match to do that, or to compare the two lists. So because index and match is giving you a lot of procedures, let's retain these two to solve that question, keeping in mind that you'll be also competing with time. So let's see how we are going to apply the lookup. For the XLOOKUP, I know most of you do not have the latest version, the 365 version, which you are supposed to get those applications there. So I will also eliminate XLOOKUP for the benefit of all of you. We are going to use the VLOOKUP. So let's now study these two lists. And remember, if you are going to use VLOOKUP, we must have what we call an identity key. What do we have that is found in list A, that is dataset 1, and bank statement 1, which we can use to compare these items. Yes, that's good. I can see somebody was really understanding this concept. So we are going to identify the identity key, for which in this case, Gladys is telling us that the identity key is the transaction ID. If she looks at the date, we are able to see 1st of May 2021, repeated year more than once. If you look at the transaction ID, it is unique. If you look at the description here, they are uniform all through. So that one cannot be our identity key. Amount here different, but some are also the same. If you look at external ID, it can be a good thing or it can be used as an identity key. But the problem is if we now move to the next worksheet, we don't have that option of external ID. We only have reference number, which is the same as ID, or transaction ID. Please just use it so that we see how we use it XLOOKUP. Okay, we will see that, but let's now focus on what all of you have, such that they don't now get worried of we covering things that they don't own. So having identified that, somebody has told us that we are going to use transaction ID. So transaction ID is found in dataset 1. That's where we have our transaction ID. If I come to dataset 2, these numbers here or these codes here are the same, but they now given a different name, which is now reference number. So the transaction ID and reference number represents the same thing in these informations. And therefore, we are going to apply this as our identity key using VLOOKUP to reconcile these lists. So one, these lists can be different. The difference can be caused or may be caused by one, somebody is complaining about my sound. Is it that you are not able to hear me? Is it true that you are not able to hear me from your side? Is it true that you are not able to hear me from your side?
So I said for us to work out this question, we must first of all create this additional column. This additional column, we are going to use the name of the other worksheet for us not to get confused in the process. Remember, so when we are at the bank statement 1, we are comparing it with the data set 1. We are comparing it with data set 1. We are comparing it with data set 1. And then if we now move to data set 1, we are going to compare it with the bank statement 1. So we have to create an additional, column. So this one here might be the way you prefer. You can create it here, or you can just create an additional column here adjacent to the amounts, and then you now bring it there. You just compare them first before you do any other thing. So let's create an additional column immediately after amount. How do we do it? Just place your cursor in the external ID, hold Control Shift together, then you do your plus to have the additional column. So what is the name of this additional column? We are going to call it bank statement 1. Bank statement 1. So that is the name of that column. Okay. Having done that, you are told that we are going to use VLOOKUP. We are going to apply VLOOKUP to compare these two lists. So first of all, we are going to say, activate your cell by introducing equal sign. So VLOOKUP, click your tab button. What is our lookup value? Our lookup value is the transaction ID. Our lookup value is the transaction ID. So if we are going to autofill these figures horizontally, but we want to keep on referring to the values in column B, which is the transaction ID, then we need to do something to all the items in column B. Remember, column B will now remain our reference column. Column B will remain our reference column, and therefore we have to lock it. So when you are going to introduce a dollar sign, we don't lock 2, but we lock B. Why? 2 represent the raw number. If you are going to autofill these values up to the last item down there, we are going to change the number of row from row number 2 to number 3 to number 4 up to the last one. But we will keep on referring to column B, and that's why we introduce a dollar sign before B. Okay, so that's our lookup value. If that is what we are going to use, the reference or the identity key, which other data set are we going to compare it with? Which other data set? We are now going to move to our second data set, which is bank statement 1. Bank statement 1. So in this bank statement 1, what is the range of the data which we need? So 1, having identified that our reference or unique key is in column B or is the reference number, we are not compelled to include the date as part of the table array. We are not compelled to include date column here as part of the table array. We are also not compelled to include this other information as part of the table array. We go straight away to this first code or transaction ID. So we move to that first code, Control Shift, right navigation key. Remember, we are highlighting that table array, and then still holding Control and Shift together, click your page down arrow to highlight the entire data set. Click your page down arrow to highlight the entire data set. So having highlighted the entire data set, remember it is up to row number 43,166. What do we do? Our data set will not change. Our table array will not change. So what do we do to our table array? It must be fully $referenced. So we all dial F4. We dial F4 to fully $reference our table array. So that's what we do to our table array. Having picked that table array, which is there in our bank statement 1, what do we want it to return to us? What do we want it to return to us? 1, we want it to return to us the amount column. We want it to return to us the amount column. So what is the column index number of amount column within this table array? Within this table array in the bank statement worksheet. So let's just come here and look at it. So let's just come here and look at it. Let me show you that. Just a minute. So this is our table array. Remember, it is B7 here up to D. So it is only covering column B, C, and D. So if our table array is within this range and we want it to return to us the amount or the amounts, that is the figures in column D, what are we going to indicate as our column index number? What are we going to indicate as our column index number? What are we going to indicate as our column index number? 3, somebody saying 4, 3, okay. Yes, we have highlighted B to D as our table array. So this one here is the transaction code in column index number 1 within the range, column index number 2, and then column index number 3. That is what we want it to return to us. And as you can see, for some people, you already have this in your formula, but this one here is pointing the worksheet which is currently active. So do away with this. Do away with that name. Immediately after your table array, the column index number should be 3. The column index number should be 3. And then you say comma. So do we need an approximate match or an exact match? We need an exact match. We need an exact match. And therefore, we are going to have false or 0 to represent the exact match. And then you close your bracket. So let's enter and see. Let's enter and see. So it is returning to us. It is returning to us the value, which is confirming that those transaction codes are the same. But are these values really the same all through? We'll know that in the process. So just place your cursor there at the bottom right corner, double tap to get all the values filled, to get all the values filled to the last part. So what we have done, we've now reconciled or compared the values in our bank statements and also with those values in data set 1. That's what we have done. I'm getting reference error. Yes, the reference error is about this. Remember, immediately after your table array here, you are supposed to have column index. So check whatever is there. You are having another name of bank statement, then you have 3. This is what you have. This is what you have in your data. After table array, you have bank statement, then you indicated 3 here. Is that true? No. Then there's something that you are missing. There's something that you are missing there. Okay, before we help those who are getting the errors, is there somebody who is able to get these values as they appear on my screen? Do we have somebody who has been able to get them as they are appearing on my screen? Yes? Okay. Only one person, 2. Thank you, Purity. Martin, that's good. Janet has also been able to do the same. Okay. Let me redo that. Let me redo that for your sake. Let me redo that. Remember, we are comparing the 2 lists. We are now in the bank statement. We are comparing bank statement with the data set 1. So the values in data set 1 are in column D. We want to bring the values in bank statement to this same worksheet and compare them. So what are we trying to do here? We are saying equal to VLOOKUP. The lookup value is the identity key. Whatever we are going to find in this table and the other table, but they are unique. They are not duplicated. The values, we cannot take them as the lookup value. Why? Remember, some values will be the same. We cannot take the dates because the dates are duplicated, and we all identified that we are supposed to take the reference ID or transaction ID. So our transaction ID is the lookup value, and we said if we were to autofill these figures horizontally, we are going to move from B2 to C2. But since our reference or identity key is in column B, we have to place a $ before letter B, which means we are locking our reference column. Then we place a comma. After that, we are now moving to table array. What is our table array? It is now the other worksheet which we are comparing with this. The other worksheet is called bank statement. So if you click the name down there, it will take you to that. So whatever is displayed here is the name of the worksheet. Why? We are working with 2 different worksheets. So that's why it displays the name first. After it has displayed the name, what or which specific cell are we now referring to? Our table array starts from the first reference number, this one here, and then we highlight it. We highlight it to that end or to the withdrawal part, and then we hold Control and Shift together. You click the page down arrow to be able to highlight the entire worksheet within that specific range. So do you have, remember, we've not changed anything. So you should be having B7 to D43166. For those who are getting reference error, you must have this order. Remember, we are working out with the same worksheet. I shared with you the same worksheet and downloaded it from the group or from the class group there. So we must be having the same worksheet, the same order, the same pattern. Since this one is our table array, we have to lock it. We have to lock it. So we say F4 to fully lock that. We say F4 to fully lock that table array. Having done this, in this table array, what do we need to get as the return? Do we want it to return to us the transaction ID, or do we want it to return to us the amount? The examiner was very specific, said, compare these two lists and get us the differences, both the items that are missing in these two lists and also even difference in amounts. So because we want to also compare difference in amounts, let it return to us the amounts so that we can also compare these differences in the amounts. So we now come here and say, since our table array is from B to D, and we need D as the outcome, we have 1, 2, 3. That is the column index number. That is the column index number. Number 2, remember we are considering the transaction ID. So we need an exact match. Not something close to that. Not something far from that. We need an exact match. If it is not going to give us an exact match, we expect it to return to us an error. So we now have 0 for the exact match, or just go down there and once the false section appears in blue, click your tab button to bring false there. And then you enter. If you enter, you will be able to see this returned. So autofill it. Autofill that value. Autofill the values there. So we've now autofilled those values in that section. So just place your cursor there in any part of these two, hold Control and click the page down arrow to move to the last row of your data set. So remember, they did this intentionally. At the top there, all of them are equal, and at the bottom here, you can also see the values are resembling each other. But let's see what will happen. Just highlight the last two empty cells there, then you say alt equal, and then you say alt equal. So if you check these two values, we can see there's a difference. There's difference between these two lists, a difference of 19,000. A difference of 19,000. So as you can see, the values that are originally in this worksheet are more than those that are in this other worksheet by 19,000. So already we've identified the difference, but we now want to get that specific transaction which has got this difference. So what do we do? What do we do? Let me take you, let's undo that. So we've identified where the problem is, maybe in the first part. Let's now move to the top. So we've seen that there are some transactions here that are not in the bank statement. You may also find that there are those in the bank statement that are not found in data set 1. Use if function. Okay, somebody saying we use if function. I will just tell you in 10 minutes time. I will tell you why if we use if function, we'll take almost the whole day here. But let's see what we have in the bank statement. So in the bank statement, we now want to compare what we have in the bank statement with what is there in data set 1 using the same function. If you remove duplicates, remember these codes are unique all through. So if you remove duplicates, you are going to have 43,166 row. Conditional formatting, okay, that's good also. Conditional formatting, if you remain with unique, well and good, you will also get it. But I think you're going to apply the transaction ID column to identify the unique. And remember, those ones that are not unique or duplicate has got values that are different, though they have the same code. So that's another challenge. So let's go ahead and see. Equal VLOOKUP. What's our lookup value? It is this transaction. In column B, our reference column. So we have to place a $sign before letter B, comma. Our table array is the other table. So what is the other worksheet? It is now the data set 1. We only need to compare the transaction ID and the values. So we don't need this extra information. We only need it to give us, the amount. So we just come here, highlight it to the first part of our data. Highlight it to the first part of our data there. We only need the amounts, the original amounts and the transaction ID to be compared. So we highlight all of that and fully $reference it. So F4, comma. So within that range, B to D, what do we want it to return to us? From B to D, what do we want it to return to us? The amount. So what is the column index number? What is the column index number based on our range? 3. Even though our actual data has got more than 3 columns, we are only interested in the first or in these 3 columns, that is B, C, and D. It is only within that range we are going to get our differences, comma. So do we need an exact match or approximate match? Of course, we need an exact match. So this time around, I'm not using 0 intentionally. Exact match, if it's type there false or we type 0, they mean the same thing. So you are safe either with false or 0. Both are going to give you the outcome. Then you enter. So if I enter, I'm also able to see the same value. And remember the other one, we were able to see that the first transaction here has got 50,000. So this transaction is found in the 2 lists. So you double tap to get your values autofilled. Double tap to get your values autofilled. So that's what we have there. That's what we have. That's what we have in this range. So having reconciled these two, we've now compared them. We now want to identify those unique items that are found in our data set. We want to now find those unique items which are found in our data set. Okay, so what you can now do, let's start with this first list. So let's now highlight the titles, including that value which we've added there. Highlight the title, including the value which we've added there. Then you click the page down arrow to highlight everything. So having done that, we now move to sort and filter, then custom sort. So which column do we want to sort? The last column which we've just added. The last column which we've just added. So we come to here, sort by dataset is the column. We want to sort them from smallest to largest or largest to smallest. Let's see what we'll have from largest to smallest. And then you say, okay. from largest to smallest. So let's give it time and see. Remember, it is having over 43,000 rows. So let's give it time. Let's give it time to calculate that, and then we see the outcome. So have you been able to see what is going on? As you can see, we have how many values that are not found in the other lists? How many transactions? I can see the difference. Wow, that's great. So as you can check there in column E, the first 4 transactions do not appear in the other worksheet. The first 4 transactions are what are now missing in the other worksheet. The codes are unique. They are not found in the other worksheet, but they are found in the bank statement 1 worksheet. So that's the first identity. That's the first identity or difference we are getting there. So it means the other ones that are here, the other difference which we may identify is that there are those that are here, but the values are different. There are those that are here, but the values are totally different. That's what we want to look at. So where can we get that? Let's now come to this other worksheet, that is data set 1. In our data set 1, I want you to have it this way. So let's create an additional. Let's have 2 columns there. Let's have 2 columns there. Let's have 2 columns there. So in the first column, here, we may like to have this. So you say, what we have here is equal to what we have here. Why are we having the first equal sign? Remember, any formula in Excel must start by using an equal sign. So the first equal sign is there as an activation of the cell. But the second one, we are trying to say that what we have in column D is equal to what we have in column E. So is that one true? It is telling us that it is true. So let's do it all through. Let us do it all through, and we see. So as you can see, it is telling us that most of them are equal, but there are some that are not equal. Remember the difference which you are getting? The 17, 19. So there's some values here that are not the same. That's what we want to identify. So how can we identify that? Since we know that these ones that are true are very many in number, and those ones that are not reconciling based on the amount are very few, we can sort them in this order. So let's have here, maybe comment, let's just have it that way. And then let's just, we can now highlight the entire data set. Remember, it will not change anything. Let's highlight our entire data set, the whole of it. Then we move to sort and filter, custom sort. So which column do we want to sort? Which column? Oh, sorry for that. The column we want to sort is this column here for the, that is column F, where we have the remarks. So come here and pick your column F. Which one have we highlighted? It must just have the range. There's some error in highlighting. Let's look at it. Oh, for that, there's something that we have not done. So let's highlight it this way. Highlight the whole of it. I've seen we must indicate that it has headers. So highlight the whole of it. then go to sort custom. So we must indicate here that our data has got headers for us to see now the titles appearing here. So which column do we want to sort? The column for comment. So we have false and true between F and T. Which one comes first in the alphabetical order? It is F, and that is what we are looking for. So just say in that column, we are going to sort them from the smallest to the largest. No. Sorry, I've identified it. The problem is here. Let's say we are dealing with values here, is it? We are dealing with values here. So we are saying that D2 is equal to E2. So in cases where they are not equal, first method you can say equal to, so count if, we can use count ifs. So what is the range we are looking for? That is the range. The comment part is the range. So we fully lock that range. And then we say comma. So which criteria, which item are we looking for? We are looking for false. You want to know how many transactions are not adding up. So we now type our false there. Then you close your bracket. So as you can see, using that first method, we've been able to identify that it is only one transaction that is not adding up. It is only one transaction which is not adding up. It is only one transaction that is not adding up. So number two, you may want to know the specific location of that transaction. We may want to know the specific location of that transaction. So you can use now match to know the row number where that transaction is. So have your match there. Lookup value, we are looking for the location of false. We are looking for the location of false. So we have match. We have match there. What is the lookup value? This is what we are looking for. So lookup array within what range? Within this range. We are looking for it within that range. And remember that is a range, so you should not forget at any given time, the moment you are dealing with range or array, it must be locked. What do we need? An exact match, because we've already known that we are looking for one specific item. So that item there is found in row number 40. So since row number 40 is just somewhere here, row number 40 is not far from here. So if you come here, row number 40 within this range, row number 40 within this range is somewhere here. Row number 40 is somewhere here. So as you can see, these transactions are not equal. If you compare the difference between 1910 and this, it is giving us what was not making these two lists to balance. That is method number one. You've identified that this one here is giving us that specific difference which you are getting when you subtracted the totals. That is a long route which we have used. Some of you might have been lost on the way. Let's do away with that long method. What you need to do, just say equal sign, take this first value minus the second value. We expect to get 0 all through if they are balancing, but if they are not, we are going to get some values. So let's see those values there. And then we now highlight the shortcuts. We highlight that range, the whole of it, move to sort, custom. It has got headers so that we can pick the title. We need comment. Put them from largest to smallest because these are the ones we expect them to reconcile. So we'll be having a lot of 0 values in that column. So let's now make it from largest to smallest. And then you say, okay. So give it time because of the nature of the data which we have. So without wasting time, we've been able to identify that transaction coming at the top. It is only this single transaction which was giving us the difference in the totals. So that's how you are to identify the differences in these two sheets. So first of all, you compare them using VLOOKUP. Having compared them using VLOOKUP, you compare their totals, which you identified that there are those that are totally here, but the values are different. So this one here was done intentionally. This one here was done intentionally. They only eliminated 1 0 here. Number 2, when you now come to your bank statement, we've been able to identify that these 4 transactions are missing in the other list. So that question 1 is answered. That question 1 is answered. Do I have any question from you? 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 Let me check. Yes, floating. Give us a minute. We try. Okay. Can I share? Wow. So let me give you time to ask those questions. So if you now move to question 2, question 2 to 5, use data set 2. So we are now going to use this data set here. Let's have a survey and see what it entails before we now move or look at the question. So this is what we have. This is what we have. This is what we have. Somebody has a question? Okay, so this is what we have. This is what we have. This is what we have. I believe this other part, you don't have this other part. This is what you have in your data set. So it is as simple as it looks. We have date, day, price. Then we have the volume amount, the prices. So what do they want us to do with that data? So first part, we are being told what day is missing. The dates are not continuous. The dates that we have there are not continuous. There is one that is missing. There is one that is missing. So how are we going to identify the missing dates in this data set 2? Remember, it is moving from row number 4 to row number 1018. You only have 3 hours to complete all the questions. Will you scroll it one by one, trying to count the dates and look at the missing dates? No. We have several methods, but I will give you this simple method to help you get that. We want to identify the missing dates. We want to identify the missing date. and it must follow a given order. So this is what we are going to do. Highlight all of the dates, that column for the dates, copy it, then paste it somewhere here. Paste it somewhere there. Paste it somewhere there. So we have the dates. We have the dates now. You can arrange them in whichever order you need, but as at now, they are not arranged in that order maybe. So first of all, having copied it there, let's arrange it from the oldest to the latest. So just highlight the values, not the title. Just highlight the dates that you just copied there. Then you go to sort and filter. Go to sort and filter. So, okay, so we have the date there. So how do we want to put them? Order oldest to newest or newest to oldest. So let's take whichever order. We can take newest to oldest or oldest to newest. But let's take oldest to newest. Let's see. Yes, let's pick the oldest to newest date. So have we taken that? Before I now proceed to the other concepts, which maybe will be a bit confusing. Have we sorted our dates? Have we sorted our dates from oldest to newest? Everyone, have we done that? Have we done that? Okay, so having done that, remember these dates are following each other. So the interval between them will always be 1. The interval between them will be 1. So we want to identify that missing date. We want to identify that missing date. So come and place your cursor here. Come and place your cursor next to the second date. Come and place your cursor next to the second date. That is 9th of January 2014. Having placed your cursor there, you say equal to this second date will be equal to this second date will be equal to what we have here. This second date will be equal to what we have there plus 1. So G5 will be equal to G4 plus 1. We expect it to return to us either true or false. We expect it to return to us either true or false. So you click your tab button to get all of them there all through. But we are suspecting that there is some date there which is missing. So we want to know. We want to know that date which is missing. Maybe we can say this, or we have outcome. We have outcome there. So we want to now sort them in the alphabetical order. So just highlight these two. Click your page down arrow, come to sort, custom. You want to sort now which column? Outcome column. Smallest to largest. Let's pick that. And then you say, okay. So if you do that, we are having an error. We are having an error. and you are not able to identify the missing date. But because you are able to see this one having value error, whatever is given there, we are not able to identify that. So you are not supposed to apply the sort and filter method. This is what you are supposed to do. This is what, so undo that procedure and see, mark that point where we cannot use filter to help us identify the missing value. So what we have done here, we are saying that the second date here is equal to the first date plus 1. So the one that is missing will return to us false value. The one that is missing will return to us the false value. So how do we find that false value? Based on the row number. So what you do is to, remember we are trying to locate where false is, and we'll be able to identify that date. So come here and say, let's make it somewhere. Let's just have it there. So we say, we want to use match to locate the row number where false is. So you say equal to match. Lookup value, we are finding, or we are trying to locate match, comma. Lookup array, we are locating false within which range? Within this range of the outcomes. So that's where we are trying to locate a false outcome, comma, and we need an exact match, nothing else. So we are told that there's some dates here, or there's an outcome of false, which is found in which row number? Row number 351. So as you saw it in the other question, I was trying to scroll and locate where we have 351. No, I will take a lot of time because this row is now far much away that I cannot easily identify it within this range. So what am I going to do? Let's now use this trick. Equal to sequence, row number, we want 351 rows filled there, and then you enter. So it has filled it up to row number 351. So just click your tab button to take you to the last part, and you will be able to see the false which we were trying to locate here. So if you check here, from 23rd, we go to 24th, and we expect it to move to 25th. Instead, it is showing us 26th. Why not go to find? It's easy. Okay. Remember, we are learning how many concepts? Not just one. Forget about the short one of go to find. It is easy. Okay. That one is also there. But I want us to see how we can apply this also to help us get the same. So as you can see, we've been able to identify where we have 24 and 26. 25 is missing. Is that so? 25 is missing. So we've identified the missing date in that data set. So that's what you're expected to give here. That is what you're expected to give here. It is 25th of December 2014. So whatever is missing there is 25th of December 2014. That is what was missing in that data set. I don't have sequence. Wow. If you don't have sequence, then your Excel is letting you down. Which version is that? Is it 2010, 16, or 19? Okay, somebody's telling you can also use series to make it to 351. Then you get that. Yes. Okay, so that's the first part. Of course, you can also use find. You can also use find. So that's another way of identifying that. So I want you to use that find at your free time. Try to learn on how to use find to get the same thing. Try to use find function to get the same thing, so that maybe when we are meeting tomorrow, we will see what you are able to do. So the next thing you are told, what is the total volume and average price for all Mondays? Thank you, Everastus. Even before moving forward, he has been able to identify the formula which we need to get. The moment you see you are expected to get total and you are given conditions, we cannot use sum function. We cannot use count ifs, because count ifs only gives us the frequency. How many times is that number appearing there or that item? And then we cannot use if function, because if function does not deal with values. It only returns what you need, but it does not give you the values unless what you are referring to involves values. So we are going to use some ifs function. We have two conditions, the total volume and average price for all Mondays. So we first of all get total volume and average price. So total volume, and then we are going to have average price. And we are going to have just one-time formula to help us get that. So let's come to this data set and see. So we've already identified that. We can do away with those. Let's now come here. So if you check here, the days of the week which we have been given are not given in full. We have them in short forms. So if you just try to refer to Monday as a whole word there, you will not get the answer. That's number one. So if you want to get now the total volume for all Mondays, irrespective of the date, so long as it is Monday, come to your question 2. Total volume, you will say equal to sum ifs. So what is the sum range? You now come to your data set 2. My sum range is the volume column. And since it is a range, I must fully $reference it, comma, criteria range 1. I'm told that I must give them, but those ones that are falling on Monday. So I must come here and highlight the criteria range 1. I must highlight the criteria range 1. So that is where I have my criteria range 1 fully locked. Fully locked. Fully locked. Sorry, let me have this one here. It is including the title, which it should not. So having picked that criteria range 1, which specific item do I need? I need Mondays. And in this order, I can see that Monday is just MON. So 1, I can type it in a given cell and refer to it, or introduce it here. Introduce it here, and remember, since it is not a number, that's a word, it's a special character which must just be inserted using quotation marks. So if I enter, I'm having an error. If I enter it, I'm having an error. So what could be the error? Maybe my word there, Monday, has got an error there. So let's see if we just type it here and refer to it, but I believe there is a problem with it. So let's see. Criteria 1 will be this. It is still having an error, so we made a mistake here. Let's come and check. Type Monday. So let's see. Let's see what we have here. So such kind of things, if you find that as a challenge, just say control copy. Then we come to here, let's place it here. Remember, that's a condition which is needed. So we have to take care of that condition. So we are going to have is equal to some ifs. Our sum range is in data set 2 within this range here, fully locked. Our criteria range is those items in column B. So we have B, we have B, and remember the range is from B what? The range is from B4 to that's also still a range. So we say fully locked, comma. So our Monday now, we have it here. Just pick it from this. So the moment you pick it from there, it is already in a cell. We don't need to use quotation marks. But if you're not going to pick it from a cell, then we have to use quotation marks if you type it there manually. And then you enter. So if you do that, you'll be able to see, your total volume. You'll be able to see your total volume. So from this huge data here, we are able to get our total volume from there. So average price, what is the total volume and average price for, okay, average price. So we just say, remember we are having a condition there. So we are going to use average ifs. So we say equal to average ifs. So average range, what are we going to look for the average? The average price. So we come to data set 2, the price column, the price column, the price column. Price column is there, and it must be fully locked. It must be fully locked. So having picked the average range, which criteria are we told to bring there? Still it is Monday. So just come to your data set here, pick this Monday, and then you close your bracket. Sorry, few arguments. Sorry. We are picking that specific item. So let's pick Monday. Few arguments. Let me see, average range. Oh, sorry. So we have not picked the range. We have not picked the range of that item. Sorry for that. Sorry for that. So equal to average range. So average ifs. What do we want to get the average for? It is the price. That is what we want to get the average for. Then having indicated that, we are now moving to criteria range 1. We have been told to do them for Mondays. So we have to pick the range where we have the days, of the week. So we'll come here to the days of the week, which is the range. We first of all pick the range. Then from that range, we now pick the specific item within that range, which is Monday. And then we close our bracket. So if you enter, you'll be able to get the average there. Number 4, what is the average volume for the month of June 2016? So the average volume, it must be for a given month, but our data set has got no month column. So what are we going to do? We have to create that. We have to create the month column. So which function are we going to use to get the months, either in words or in figures? Can conditional formatting do that? You can even use pivot table to do that. You can even use pivot table to do that. But you just imagine on the procedure you will be following to create the pivot table for just getting that. So we use month function to get it in figures, or you can use the text function to get in words. So what is the value? This is the value, and we get it in words. So these are some of the things that we learned the other time. So having done that, we are expected to get for the month of June, the average volume for the month of June. So we just come here and you say equal to average ifs, average volume. So you come to this and pick the what you want to get. It's average. The other time it was price. Now it is volume, fully locked. And then you want the month. So where do we find the months? In this column. This is where we find the months. This is where we find the months, fully locked, because it is a range. Fully locked. And we want to get for the month of June. We want to get for the month of June. So we'll be able to get the average volume for the month of June 2016 is this. But my question is, remember they are very specific for the month of June 2016. Do we have a different year in this data set? We have to identify that first. So we can copy this, or what we can do, we can get for the year, because you can assume that all of them are for the year 2016, yet there are also other years there. So we have to get the year. We have to get the year before you conclude that actually that is the average. So we can now copy those years there. Copy those years there. And then we remove duplicates. So as you can see, whatever we have there is wrong. Why? They want us to get for 2016 alone. So we have to introduce another column, which we've just introduced for the year. Whatever is needed is for 2016. So you must come to this, your answer here, and continue adding the conditions. Our condition number 2 is the year. So I must come to this data set, get the year range, and within that year range, I want to get 2016. So 2016 is a number. I just type it there and I will get my answer returned. So this is the correct value. So as you've seen, don't always assume that all the years given there are single year. They are testing your understanding of the average ifs, if we have more than one condition or criteria. So if you assume that it is 2016 all through, you will be messed up. So that's what you are supposed to do for that part. Lower price, higher price, as the question is, that is the function which we are going to use. So we are going to look for the minimum and within which range, for the range of price. So I just look for it within that range. The lowest is 40. So, and the highest maximum within which range? Within which range? Within that range. So the highest price is 202. So that's what we're supposed to do in question 2. That's what we're supposed to do in question 2. That is the last one, question 3. I believe we agreed that we have to complete all of them today, though our time is already consumed by ended 11 minutes ago, but I believe you'll just bear with me for us to complete these remaining parts. So you are told, use the exchange rates to convert the amounts in dataset 1 to US dollars. Then provide the total USD amounts for all transactions. So for us to get the exchange rate to convert them, we are supposed to use this. This is the exchange rate. This is the exchange rate. And we are told that these ones here are for USD per GHS. So we have the transactions for a given or for specific months. For the specific months. For the specific months. So 1, we can use if function. 2, we can use VLOOKUP. But if function, we have to create all the conditions. How many conditions do we have here? Let's see. So you will be forced to create how many conditions? 21 conditions if you use the if function. So to avoid that long procedure, we are simply going to use VLOOKUP. We are simply going to use VLOOKUP, but this time round, we are not going to pick. We can either pick exact match or false, but we have to pick exact because all these are within a specific. This one here will help us to identify them. So the dataset 1 which they are referring to is this. The dataset 1 which they are referring to is this one here. And what we are expected to get is just to convert these values. So we can have the all of it maybe transferred to, let's copy it and bring it to sheet number 3 here. Let's bring it to sheet number 3. So we are expected to get it to, we are expected to exchange it to US dollars and also get the total amount. So with what we have here, whatever we need, this one here is not going to be necessary for this. What we have there is not going to be necessary for that. So we want to convert these to USD. So first of all, we must bring the exchange. We must bring the exchange rate. We must bring the exchange rate. How will we refer to that exchange rate? Now, I want us to understand this, how VLOOKUP is very simple to use. In this data set and the exchange rate worksheet, which item are you going to, or which item are you able to see in both the two lists? Which item are you seeing to be a common identity in the two lists? we have date as a common identity. So if you've been able to identify that we have the dates, let's now look at it, that this is what we have. So this is the data set which we have. This is the data set which we have. So it depends on the month. It depends on the date of the month. And that's why even here, they are giving us that order of the months. So we are going to use VLOOKUP to help us bring these exchange rates to the other worksheet. So come to your question 3 part. We want to bring the exchange rate. So we'll say equal to VLOOKUP. What are we looking up now? It is the date. And then we will keep on referring to column A. So just ensure that that A is locked, comma. Our table array is the exchange rate table or worksheet. So our table array is the exchange, and then we highlight. We are not interested in the title. We only need those. We highlight it that way. We have to fully lock it. We don't want to move away from it, comma. Which column index number do we need it to return to us? The exchange rates, not the date. So the number, column index number, somebody to help us identify that. It is column B, which is number 2. Which is number 2, comma. Do we need approximate or an exact match? We need an exact match. So we either take 0 or false. So having done that, we have been able to bring in the exchange rates, not looking at them one by one, but we've brought in our exchange rates. You now autofill it all through. So we are now converting it. Remember, the currency which was provided here was GHS. So we now want to convert it to US dollars. This one here was in GHS, but we have to convert our amounts now. Amount to USD. That's what we need to do. So how will we do that? Let's see. The exchange was for every every 1 US dollars, we have how many GHS? We have 5.8. We have 5.8. So 1 US dollar is giving us 5.8. So we've now brought in the rates here. So my question is, are we going to multiply by this or divide? Are we going to multiply by this or divide? Are we going to multiply by that or divide? Divide, okay. Somebody saying divide. Divide to get USD. So we will say it is what we have here, and then we divide by exchange rates. Do that all through. Do that all through to get the summation. So even without struggling, the summation is down here. It is 632,096, 351.86. But they want you to fill it somewhere. So the summation may be total. You can indicate it here or in that part where they wanted the total. So that total is equal to sum, the normal one. You highlight this range here, and then you are done. So this is what they wanted you to do. So that's all which was needed of you to do in that question. Remember, those people were basically concentrated on how to use VLOOKUP. So try to understand. I believe index and match will also be part of your exams. So get equipped with that concept. Pivot tables is not a question. That one is compulsory. You have to use it. Okay, this one here, I will share with you right away. So that's what we were supposed to cover, unless there's a question and the other person wanted to get clarification on something. You are 5 minutes.